Hello, sorry, I think I was muted first of all there, but hello, my name's Laura Lewis. So talking about the respiratory system. So let's just put it full size on the screen. Make sure I'm screen sharing. Okay, respiratory system. So let's have a look at the learning aims. So the first one, an overview of the respiratory system and the organs it encompasses. Number 2, a description of the anatomy of the lungs and their structure. And 3, a discussion of the process of aerobic respiration, that just means using oxygen, and the movement of oxygen in the body. Okay. So breathing and gas exchange. So the respiratory system is probably the easiest system to learn about because there's only pretty much one organ, isn't there? The lungs, or there's 2 lungs, but they are identical. Okay, so the gas exchange system is generally called, because lungs are broken down into different parts. Okay, so you obviously know about the lungs, breathing, but we're going to look at it in more detail. So yeah, formed of several tissues. So if you remember, a tissue is made up of different specialized cells. Okay, and the tissue makes up organs. Okay, so if you've forgotten about that, you can watch the systems video, so the biological systems video that I produced. It talks about different tissues and the overall body systems. Okay, so this tissues, they are to exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide. So again, a bit more remindings that our bodies need oxygen, and carbon dioxide is a waste product. So humans and other animals, we need to take in oxygen. Plants, the opposite way around. So plants take in carbon dioxide and they give out oxygen, and that's why we need plants. Okay, with trees and things. Okay. It's good to link different parts of science like that. It makes you sort of think. So we'll stop and think about, and if you want to ask questions to your teacher and things like that about, it's always a good idea because you think, oh, okay, so yeah, it links different things. Right, so gas exchange takes place in the thorax. So the thorax is kind of your rib cage or your upper body. Because we have thorax and abdomen. Abdomen is sort of like the known as the sort of stomach, or kind of like, well, in colloquial language, stomach, sort of the lower part of your body, and the thorax, the upper bit where ribs are. Okay, so the thorax is formed of a trachea. So that's the first bit. So your mouth will be up here. Trachea is the first bit. Okay, so trachea. You can see it's got bones, bone-like structure. They're not bones, they're cartilage, but bone-like structures around it to keep it stiff. You need to keep it open. You need to breathe all the time. The bronchi. The bronchium is the plural. Singular bronchus. Okay, let's have a look. So they're the main 2 parts where your lungs split into obviously your 2 lungs. Okay. People can live with 1 lung. Okay, if they need 1 removed, but so it's best to have 2. The bronchiole, so it splits, so bronchus splits into the bronchioles. Okay, and then the little bits at the end are called the alveoli. Again, that's a plural. Alveoli, singular is alveolus. These are all Latin words, so it's got us on the end, it's a Latin word. The diaphragm, so that's the they call it a sheet of muscle at the bottom. So if you sort of breathe in and out, you probably do it or watching a video, you breathe in and out, you're doing it anyway, but if you're conscious of you're breathing in and out, you're moving your diaphragm. That's actually what you're doing. When you get hiccups, you know about your diaphragm because that's the thing that kind of moves up and down. Like you can go kind of thing like that. That's your diaphragm moving up and down involuntarily. Okay. The ribs. So the ribs are obviously the bone. Okay, and the intercostal muscles. So intercostal muscles, can't really. These are these bits. Okay, it's between the ribs. So you've got muscles. I mean, if you've ever eaten ribs, you're eating the intercostal muscles, like of the animal. Sorry, when I say ribs, it always reminds me of food. But it's a good thing, yeah, intercostal muscle. If you order some ribs from a restaurant, that's intercostal muscle, obviously of an animal, not human. Okay, so yeah, so look at their let's have a look at the actual. I'm going to ask you the question afterwards. Here, I'll tell you the answer first, and then you can go over the. That's why I was going to ask the question first, but we'll go over it first. Okay, so the purpose of the gas exchange system. Okay, the purpose of the lungs and the gas exchange system encompasses all of this. Okay, gas exchange system. We need all of this for it to work. Because yeah, we're going a bit further than just saying the lungs. We're looking at a bit more detail. The purpose of the gas exchange system, yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry, it's down there, make sure it's out of the way. The purpose of the gas exchange system to exchange the gases oxygen and carbon dioxide between the body and the surroundings. So obviously when we breathe out, it goes into our surroundings, doesn't it? You can see it on a cold day when you breathe out, you can see your breath, okay, if it's cold enough, because, okay, that's the only time people are conscious of it. So trachea, okay, this bit, delivers gases to and from the lungs. Okay, so it's breathe in, breathe out, it's getting your trachea. Okay, it's quite good biology, isn't it? Because with breathing, because you can kind of demonstrate quite a lot. You do it yourself. You can actually feel these things happening. Bronchi, so yeah, branches of the trachea that deliver oxygen to two lungs. Yeah. Bronchioles. Okay, these are these bits. Further small branches found inside each lung. I always remember at school we had to label this. Okay, all of it. Okay, so it's a really good thing to learn about. When you get to GCSE, you'll be examined on it. I know we did it at Key Stage 3, like labeling all these things. Okay, yeah, bronchi and bronchioles. Yeah, the further small branches, kind of looks like a tree kind of thing, isn't it? Alveoli, so these little round bits. Yeah, they're air sacs. Okay, so they sort of inflate and deflate like a little tiny balloons. So small air sacs where gases are exchanged between the lungs and the blood. So that's what kind of happens, isn't it? Is in the alveoli. So we'll talk a bit more about those later. The diaphragm, a thin muscle layer, yeah, sheet or layer of muscle that contracts and relaxes to ventilate lungs. So ventilate means bring air in. It's a bit like if you open the window, don't you? Say, oh, ventilation. Yes, the window's open, so it's to bring air in, okay, and out. The ribs and intercostal muscle protect the lungs, yeah, and muscles and move the rib cage in and out. Because you're breathing through, it's actually your intercostal muscles and your diaphragm doing some work there. Okay, so yeah, you can sort of demonstrate as you go, kind of breathing in and out to help you. It's always the only thing I think in biology, probably apart from muscles, you can look at your hand or something, where you kind of demonstrate it on yourself to remind yourself like what's happening here. Okay, yeah, it's always a good thing. So don't worry in exams, just on breathing in and out. They're probably trying to remember about like the muscles and things. Okay, so it's a good point here. Oh, it's frozen a bit. It's a good point here to label it. Okay, so I'm going to just X out a bit. Okay, so I'm just going to sort of pause there so you'd have a chance to sort of screenshot this. Okay, and to label it yourself, but let's try it, we'll do it together. Okay, this one, trachea. Okay, so we sort of work. If you can't remember, just do it by process of elimination, so it means do the things you know first. Okay, and then do the things you don't know afterwards. So, okay, so we've got the bronchi, haven't we? The bronchi, yeah. Bronchioles. Okay, bronchioles. Little air sacs, remember the alveoli? Sounds a bit like a pasta. Sounds like ravioli to me. Alveoli. The diaphragm is that muscle, isn't it? The big muscle at the bottom. If you breathe in and out, you feel the diaphragm at the bottom of your rib cage moving in and out. Ribs, so the muscle, they're actually yellow here, so the bone, I know they're kind of white in real life, but they're yellow here to highlight them. Intercostal muscles, the bit between your ribs. Okay, so that's the answers there. So again, just check your answers, make sure that they're all correct. Okay, it's also a good thing as well to write these all down. Okay, your notebook, you could have a notebook in lessons to write all these things down. Okay, we've got that. Okay, let's go to the next bit. So inhalation, so that means you're breathing in. Okay, the following changes occur to your thorax. So thorax, yeah, the rib bit here. Okay, you can't see me, but I'm sort of breathing in sort of at the same time, so kids are kind of follow along as you do it. So, okay, breathing in. We're just going to focus one bit at a time. Breathing in. So the following changes occur to your thorax during inhalation. So intercostal muscles contract. This pulls the rib cage up and out. So you breathe in, your rib cage goes up. You don't notice it all the time, do you? But it does. You breathe in with a big breath in. Yeah. Okay. And it brings rib cage in and out. It's like someone trying to fit through a door. You don't know if you can fit through. Everyone breathes in, don't they, to bring their sort of muscles up. it doesn't usually work. But people do it anyway. They go breathe in. Like if someone goes past them in the cinema, I go breathe in because it kind of takes this bit. Yeah, it takes this bit thinner, isn't it? But it makes your rib cage bulge out a bit. Right, diaphragm contracts. Okay, yeah, because it gets tight, doesn't it, if you breathe in? Okay, you don't want to do it for too long, do you? You don't want to breathe in for too long because you have to use that muscle. So both of these changes cause the volume of the lungs to increase. Yeah, your lungs actually get bigger. It's always good to join in, isn't it? They get bigger if you breathe in. You can feel your lungs. You can feel your lungs filling up. Then, okay, if you do it slowly, you can feel them. Okay, the scientific reason is that when the volumes of the lungs increase, so when they get bigger, the pressure inside decreases because there's more room for the gas. So the pressure inside the lungs decreases because there's more room for the gas. Let me just move this a bit. Okay. So the lower pressure inside the lungs causes air to be drawn in from the surroundings because you're not using your mouth like to suck in the air. You can, because think about that. If you don't really suck in it, I mean, if you said suck in the air like you can, that's a different movement, isn't it? If your mouth, that's a different movement. So actually, you're moving your lungs, and that's increasing the volume, and that's causing the air to go in. Okay, it's actually quite an interesting. It's not intuitive or something. Oh, I'm going to suck air in, but you don't when you breathe. You don't suck in. Your muscles actually move, and air always moves from high pressure to low pressure. So when the lungs get bigger, the pressure inside here lowers. Okay, because there's more room. There's less pressure. Okay, because the air molecules have got more space to move around. There's less pressure. I've got video. I'm going to say I've actually got a video produced on pressure. Everyone go and look at that. For stage 3 as well. Okay. The pressure decreases, and it actually draws air in from the surroundings into your lungs. Okay, because the pressure will be higher out here than it is inside. So it draws air in. So that's breathing in. So let's go over it a bit again. So intercostal muscles contract. Okay, it pulls the rib cage up and out. Okay, up and out. Right, so you can sort of do it as you watch this. The diaphragm contracts. Yeah, so that they all contract, more the muscles contract. Diaphragm flattens. Okay, both of these changes cause the volumes of lungs to increase. The pressure inside decreases, and air is drawn in from surroundings. Okay, that's one part. Breathing in. Oh, breathing out now. Okay, so breathe in, now breathe out. So intercostal muscles relax. So say you go relax and breathe out, and you go like that and breathe out. So it pulls the rib cage down and in. Okay, yeah. Breathe in, you breathe out. You feel your rib cage falling. Okay, the diaphragm relaxes. The diaphragm returns to a dome shape. You kind of feel it sitting at the bottom of your ribs, actually, if you sort of think about it enough. So both of these changes causes the volume of the lungs to decrease because the lungs get smaller. So when the volume of the lungs decrease, the pressure inside the lungs increases because the lungs have decreased their volume, so the pressure now is quite high inside the lungs. It's higher than surroundings. So yeah, the higher pressure inside the lungs causes the air to be released to the surroundings. Okay, yeah. So yeah, all sort of go along. So yeah, breathe out. Okay, everything relaxes, intercostal muscles relaxes, diaphragm relaxes, volume lungs get smaller, causes the air to be expelled from the lungs. Okay, so that's a little animation that I like to like there. Okay, so you can see that person is breathing in and out. So inhale, exhale. It's quite fast, isn't it? But sort of follow along with that. Okay, so yeah, as practice, okay, is to write these in a table. Okay, so let's practice intercostal muscles relax. Okay, so if you're not sure about that, I would practice that. Right, okay, so we're going to go on to the alveoli because that's where kind of all the action happens, really. Okay, so adaptations for gas exchange. So we've only talked about taking the air in. We haven't said yet what the body does with it. So remember, adaptation is a feature that an organism has which is suited to its function. Okay, so it's like saying an animal's very furry, adapted to a cold climate, adaptation. Okay, so it's to anything. Okay, so even in the body you have an adaptation. So in the lungs, the alveoli are adapted to exchange gases. They're kind of, yeah, they've got certain features that allow that. Okay, so this is a close up. So we've got the bronchiole, we've got alveoli, so the air sac. Okay, so the little sort of rounded sort of balloon-like things, and there is blood vessels, or like capillaries, a type of blood vessel. Okay, so deoxygenated blood comes in. Okay, and this is a capillary here, and this is the alveoli. Okay, the alveoli is like, yeah, the pink bit, and this is the blood vessel, the capillary. So deoxygenated, so that means it hasn't got oxygen, comes in with the red blood cells in the capillary. They give their carbon dioxide out to the alveolus, alveolus meaning one, alveoli, and oxygen goes back into the blood in the same thing. Okay, in the alveoli does both. The alveoli do both, should say, a bit grammatical there. Okay, and oxygenated blood is taken out, and that will go to the heart. Okay, and to the rest of the body. Okay, so the blue cells show deoxygenated blood. They're not actually blue. It's this purpose of the diagram to make it easier to see. So deoxygenated blood comes in, okay, and carbon dioxide is given out to the alveoli, which is breathed out by us. When we breathe in, oxygen goes into the alveoli and it goes into our bloodstream. And the red blood cells, if you remember, carry the oxygen around the body because in the blood. I kind of got those two words mixed up. The red blood cells, these little things here, carry the oxygen around the body in the blood. Okay, now that's kind of part of the circulatory system. So we can see the respiratory system is very closely working with the circulatory system here. Okay, so again, this video is if you've forgotten about the circulatory system to remind you. Okay, so this is very common questions you get. Okay, so I'm just going to move this. So, very interesting thing. The human lungs, one of us, 80 million alveoli. So think about how small they are. They've got 80 million in your lungs. Okay, that's just one lung. They've got 160 million, both lungs. The diagram shows some alveoli in a human lung. But the bronchiole, so it's a more detailed diagram. Blood vessels, scale 0.1 millimeters. Okay, so that's a tenth of a millimeter. Yeah, they're very small. So give three features of the alveoli that allow large amounts of oxygen to enter the body, into the blood and the body. So I like people to sort of pause there and think yourself about how three features allow large amounts of oxygen to enter the blood. Okay, you pause. Okay, we'll move on. Okay, so also I'm going to show you the answers in a minute. So name the process by which oxygen passes from the air into the blood. Okay, that's diffusion. Okay, so this bit here, this is called, yeah, diffusion. Okay, so diffusion. Okay, we're going a little bit advanced in these two last ones. Okay, that was on, but this is the really key one we need to answer. These are a bit extension questions. So breathing allows large amounts of oxygen to enter the blood. Explain how breathing does this. Okay, so yeah, the extension questions, basic questions. Right, we'll go over them just in a second. So let you look to copy that down if you didn't screenshot that. Screenshot that, and we'll go over it. Okay, so the three features of the alveoli are the key things we need to know. Three features of the alveoli that allow large amounts of oxygen. So large surface area, because remember there's 80 million alveoli, they've got a large surface area. There's a thin or short distance from the air to the blood, so 1 cell thick. So let's go back there. Okay, this is very thin, this wall, and this is 1 cell thick. Okay, so the alveoli are very small, 1 cell thick. So that wall is 1 cell thick. And the next one we can kind of see on the diagram is a very good blood supply. Yeah, exactly, good blood supply, many capillaries. Okay, so all of those get you 3 marks. Okay. So, and we had the extension questions. Name the process by which oxygen passes from the air into the blood. Diffusion. Okay. And then the next one, the last one. Breathing allows large amounts of oxygen to enter the blood. Explain how breathing does this. Okay, so it brings more oxygen into the lungs of the alveoli. It keeps oxygen level high in alveoli. Okay, so Breathing does this. So yeah, brings more energy, brings more oxygen into the air, into the lungs. It's actually very straightforward. Brings oxygen into the air, into the lungs and the alveoli, and keeps the oxygen level high in the alveoli. So yeah, again, this is very extension. Or you can explain it in a more complicated way. Maintains concentration difference between alveoli and blood. Keeps O2 concentration in alveoli greater than. That means oxygen concentration in blood. Gains 2 marks. Okay, so you could just, yeah, you could just, these two answers together equal that one. So it brings more oxygen air into the lungs and the alveoli. I'd write both and the alveoli, and keeps oxygen level high in the alveoli. Okay, so yeah, these two are kind of extension ones, these questions anyway, so don't worry too much if you don't remember those, but this is the more important things. So alveoli, so these little blood vessels, so these little things. Okay, so large surface area, the cell, yeah, 1 cell thick, 2 cells thick, or 1 cell thick walls, very thin walls. Thin walls would also get you the mark, and a very good blood supply. It's a very commonly asked question about the alveoli. That's why I've concentrated so much on the alveoli there, because often the exams will ask you about that question, and you'll be prepared for GCSE, okay, as well, if we start to learn about this. So thank you for joining the class. I don't know if I said I was Laura Lewis, but I'm Laura Lewis. Hope to see you in another video, and thank you for joining. Goodbye.